Yeah.
But having that part be part of the movie was just so like, I can't believe this. It makes me feel like I got played, that I ever cared about anything that happened up to that point.
Double Toasted's 11th year anniversary party is coming up. Join us for a full weekend of live music, shows, comedy, after parties, a movie screening, and more. Get your tickets by going to dtanniversary.eventbrite.com and use the QR code right there to take you to the site and get your tickets today. And I'll be back at the Broadway Comedy Club June 27th for my own style of sit-down comedy. You'll also be doing some open mic. So get your tickets now by going to doubletoastedny.com. Use that QR code right there.
For those of you who haven't seen 28 Years Later, this is your moment. This is your spoiler alert. But let's give a quick look at the trailer, and we'll be back with our spoiler thoughts on 28 Years Later. Just watching that trailer, I'm like, where's that movie?
I know. It's so full of tension and it's off-putting, and it's a certain weirdness you can't put your finger on, but you just feel so much dread.
And the sound or music, whatever you want to call it, it's like, I don't know what that guy's talking about, but it feels really important and relevant to the images that they're showing, which is interesting because in the movie when they play that, I was like, what are you guys doing? Why is this here? And then you're going to just throw in like footage of like, people in the Renaissance shooting arrows and stuff.
Yeah.
All right,
and all that. Yeah.
Let's just get into it. So for those of you who have seen 28 Years Later this weekend, you will know that there is a lot of controversy around it where people are pretty split on what they thought of the movie. Some people really liked it. Other people thought that it was a little bit of a cartoon, or that it's frankly just a mess is the simplest way to put it. But we're going to go through and do a little bit of a spoiler talk here. And just to tell you, I guess before we spoil it, because I haven't said my thoughts on here.
Please.
We talked a little bit about it after the movie, and I told people about our interaction with, I forget his name, but where someone was talking about the ending, and I just went up, I was like, you like that, huh? that has been living in my head because the movie's tone at the very end, it's like they hit the brakes and they push you out the side of the car, and then they squeeze their nose and go honk, honk, and then drive away. I'm not kidding. The thing that disappointed me the most was its lack of focus and how many ideas were in there that were just unnecessary. Like, there's one thing we'll explore where it's like, this is a movie within itself.
Yeah. No. You bring up the very thing that bothered me, was that there's so many different ideas, so many different movies, and yet because they're all squeezed into one movie, none of them are developed anywhere near to where they need to be.
The movie opens, like Corey said in the review, it has like this probably like about half hour or so where it's basically The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And you get to see Craven over here training his son. I don't remember the names of these characters. It doesn't matter. Point is that you see him training his son, who is kind of struggling, a little bit. Like he kind of sucks. And one of my
kind of sucks. Well, first off, he's taking him on the hunt. I guess it's a rite of passage. But everybody in the village is like, you think he's kind of young to be going out there? No,
true.
No, he's my boy. He's good. I mean, yeah, the kid kind of sucks, but it's not really his fault.
It's not. But the reason I say it like that is because after his sequence of suckage, it's like it's just a total shift in the character.
Yes.
That doesn't feel earned.
Right.
Like it's like they tell us like, he did this thing. Now he's a different person. Kind of if you've played, I know I'm referencing a game, but like with Tomb Raider, there's a really great moment in there where when she first uses her guns and she kills someone, it impacts her. They have something similar that happens with this character in the movie, this kid. And that's cool and all, but we don't really see any development thereafter.
We almost see the opposite, because rather than him like embracing his hunter self, he's traumatized. Like, I almost got killed. I don't even know what happened. Please don't make me go back out there.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff out there that is pretty cool. Some of it I can't show you because I'll tell you, in that first opening sequence when he was going out there and hunting with them, that was really exciting, I thought. That was probably one of the big highlights in the movie for me, because they introduce other zombies, which they flirted with a little bit before, but this movie, they really go into it. But they show you like these fat crawler zombies. And that's the first one that you see little Atreus, so to speak, snipe with his bow and arrow. And you see these fat zombies just like walking on the ground, crawling on the floor, and just like eating worms and stuff. And I thought that was an interesting way to evolve the world and show some change. And even their introduction of like these alphas, which is a pretty cool thing, but they take it to a point where it's like, guys, this is silly what you're doing here. And this right here, I think, is the alpha, as they move in packs. So that's like the big thing that happens in this first sequence, where he takes him out there. And you see these cool camera shots when they're fighting the fat guys, and then they get chased by an alpha into the house, and then they have to go back and, celebrate his kill. And one thing I wanted to bring up that you couldn't really talk about during the regular review was that sequence when they were running back. What did you think of that? You know what I'm talking about?
Across the causeway?
Where they're running across the water,
Yeah.
And it does this cool effect that I have a picture for like a reference here, where they do something like this, where they have like the sky reflecting on the ground. I thought that was really cool.
Yes, it was.
And stuff like that is what carried the movie for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that scene stood out to you at all.
No, it did. And there's so much in that first sequence, the first 30 minutes, that does work. I didn't feel tension as much as I thought I would, in as much as they get trapped in the house on a roof, and the infected are down there at them, and at some point they just go away. And I was like, when did that happen, where they just give up and go away? It's not like they're controlled by whether it's daylight or not.
Yeah,
it was like, well, they just went away because we just need to get them out of this, and there's no other way for that.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, because like the way that the movie is edited and the story's told, like they try to, that's like, I guess, the first moment of kind of like semi-sequelitis in a way, where it's like we see the protagonist having some sort of nightmare, which was pretty predictable that he was having a dream. But one of the best things about these movies is that they're basically art house vehicles to just make cool zombie shots.
Yes.
And some of the stuff in the beginning, besides like the stuff with the camera that they did, like shifting the perspective when they're shooting the arrows, and they do it in that scene when they're held up in the house.
Yeah. They do a lot of creative editing with splicing the old footage, the archers firing arrows, things that look like they come from a Ingmar Bergman movie. It's that kind of like jump in editing to kind of throw you off, to make you feel unsettled. I do think they did it too much.
I completely agree.
And so much of it was repetitive, and to where at first it felt like, oh, this means something. And then after a while, I was like, I don't think it does.
That was like my biggest problem with the movie, where it would be cutting in footage or using really cool songs. It's like, this is great. Why?
Yeah.
Like it reminded me of other art house movies I've seen where they have like big musical numbers, for example. It's like, this is really cool. Why? And that was my biggest problem with the movie. But I was just getting a surface level thing out of it, seeing them use the cameras and stuff like that.
Sure.
Like one thing I realized thinking about it this weekend was, remember when they do the shots of like the camera's red and there's like a red filter, and that's like supposed to be from the zombies' perspective?
Yeah.
That to me felt like an homage and a reference kind of to the poster, because the posters are always red.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And I thought that was a neat way to kind of be like, this is from the zombies' perspective. So rage, they always see in red. That's good. That makes sense. It doesn't even have to be that complicated.
Yeah.
Stuff like that I thought was great. But when they do what you were talking about with the arrow sequence and they're showing old stuff, or like even like for example, like they show that mask. Like, remember those masks and stuff? It's like, this shit is never explained.
No.
Like, like when you see it in the trailer, you're like, oh shit, is that like a gang or something?
Yeah. You're watching the trailer and you see the towers of skulls and those masks, and you're like, this got to be a cult. Somebody's formed a cult. No. That's what's in that cool movie in your head.
Yeah.
That's not what this is.
Exactly. And there's a lot of stuff that they could have done with that, but they just use it for neat set dressing, which if this wasn't the third movie in a very well-respected franchise, it'd be like, sure, whatever. Mm-hmm. But now we're getting into like, I mean, there's some sequelitis references that are kind of annoying in this, like blowing up a gas station. Just because they did that in the first movie.
Sure.
Or like being in a tunnel and a bunch of rats or something like that. Like they have like
Return
a bunch
of the Rats.
Yeah. I love that musical.
I was like, oh, there you guys are.
We were wondering when you would show up. And now we're getting to like the biggest thing. And this really is your spoiler alert. I don't have an image for it because, I couldn't, the movie is still in theaters, but they introduce at one point pregnant zombies. This is an image from Dawn of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And that was the first moment in the movie where I was like, what are you doing? What is happening? Because maybe I'm misremembering it, but didn't they have some conversation that more or less was like, yeah, these alphas, they're out there with their huge dongs. Like maybe they're impregnating other zombies. I don't know. Like there's something like that where they say I could be wrong, but there's something where they talk about that.
Okay.
And either way, there is a pregnant zombie in the movie, and there's a birth sequence.
Yes, 9 months pregnant. Yeah, has a birth.
And like that asks way too many questions, way too many, and because of the way that they execute it, it starts to create giant plot holes. Like just to describe the sequence to you. You can see it a little bit in the trailer, but basically what happens is you hear a scream from a train, and all of a sudden they walk onto the train and there's this pregnant zombie that's like pushing.
Who we've been seeing for a while.
Yeah, we randomly saw her at one point, and then you see her like pushing and like she's going to give birth. I saw in the trailer.
She's like, I can't eat you right now because I'm giving birth.
Yeah, but
I know I'm supposed to be mad and try to eat you or get to you, but I got something bigger going on right now. So just stay back.
Okay, so Furious Kirk said that's not said. I saw the movie twice. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember that being said.
I just remember they said a lot of stuff about the alphas that made me go like, what are you insinuating with this? There was some strange dialogue, but either way, I thought that the whole pregnant thing, especially with the way the sequence plays out, or for those of you who haven't seen the movie, the mother of the Atreus kid, who has become our protagonist, she walks up to the pregnant zombie who is too focused on pushing the baby out her body. They link hands like this, and then she pushes out the baby, which is human, which then makes you go, what the hell is going on? Because now there's a baby in the mix, and it's not infected, and now they're just carrying around this baby, which felt forced.
Yeah, there's a lot of mental gymnastics you have to do for that to work. But there's so many things we go like, well, it's a movie with zombies, so you got to let that through. I mean, that's a big plot hole. I was stumbling on some of the other ones before we even got there. Like the fact that kid was so terrified and traumatized, and yet he decided, I'm going to take my practically invalid mother across the zombie landscape that I barely survived and don't know how to navigate through.
Just reminded me of something else that bothered me about the movie.
and to keep from getting anybody stopping him, he sets a structure on fire at the village where I was like, these are his family. He loves these people. This fire could have easily got out of control and killed somebody. So you got to go, all right, let me suck it up. He hates his father and he loves his mother this much that he's willing to do these things that don't really make sense. But okay, it's the passion of it. But up to that train sequence, the fact that he's talking with the other soldier, Eric, the soldier, Eric, knowing that they don't know what's coming up, and there's a abandoned train where they can hear sounds, and the fact that the two of them talk so much that he allows his mother to walk ahead and go into the train. I was like, is anybody going to catch up with her? What is happening here? I just had so many moments like that, and you go like, oh, come on, you're nitpicking. I was like, no, these things make you disconnect from what's going on because you're like, well, wait, why? Well, shouldn't somebody? I don't get it. And her just walking in there, you have to go like, okay, she's got a brain tumor. So it's just so many things you have to go like, okay, I guess it's this. Okay, I suppose if I go with this.
But to add on to what you're saying, the biggest problem before they even get to her like walking around and perfectly delivering this zombie baby, no one in the city or village that they're in is aware enough to be like, yeah, your mom has dementia. Like no one could just be like, yeah, that's the case. It's like, why was that a mystery? You know?
Yeah.
It's like, what's the doctor gonna do? Like when they get there and they run into Ralph Fiennes, he's a very interesting character.
Very interesting. Like they get to him and you're like, all right, well, this is a whole other movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we've been around all this time. This is what's interesting here.
And what's really funny about that is even when they're describing like why they came to see him and he's like, oh, you came because of the baby. He's like, no, we found that. It's like, wow, was that a placeholder line? Like did you guys just be like, oh, they found it? So like, you know, I was just so frustrated with this because it seemed just rushed, you know, because when they introduce Ralph Fiennes' character, you can't really see it in the picture, but I loved his character because he was a doctor covered in iodine, which when they explain that, why he did that, it's pretty obvious. But when he explained it, I was like, that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And that's really a good evolution of like what the quote unquote culture would be like living in an apocalypse.
Yeah.
But when they start to explore him, it's like, all right, what are you guys doing with this character? Because it seems like you're more focused on showing me how this guy loves to stack things up and make his fancy art projects than you know, that he really has something to do.
Right. Yeah. Has something to do. His system of living out here completely alone. Yeah. And even with his stacks of skulls, it's one of those things where in the trailer, the idea of somebody stacking skulls, it fills you with wonder and who are these sick people that would do this? And the actual answer is just so completely mundane and ignores the whole WTF of somebody doing that.
Yeah.
Like they act like, yeah, oh, when people die, I put their skulls up here. Oh, okay. Like, oh, okay.
But what about a Latin quote? You know?
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of like them just like throwing shit in there and be like, isn't that deep? Isn't that artsy?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not. You gotta weave it in there better.
Or it could be, but you have this and nobody has a reaction to it. Nobody questions it. We're just gonna lay it out there and roll with it. What's your problem? Why are you still asking questions?
And when they do break it down and like they try to have an emotional moment with it, it's like, God damn, like all I'm getting from this is like you're up and you're trying to tell this kid to also be up and help just make your pile of skeletons even bigger. Like all this is just a setup for the next movie, I found out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with
that
Bone
sense.
Temple, which is so disappointing because it's going in a direction that, at least from the ending, which we are about to get to, where it just seems like they don't want it to be 28 days later anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They want it to be this ended in a way where I was like, why is this From Dusk Till Dawn? Like why?
Before we jump into that, I have one more thing to say about this.
Yes, please.
And since we're able to talk about spoilers, because there's so much like I couldn't talk about in the review.
Please.
Yeah, they get there and Ray Fiennes is like, yeah, you know, you gave me this head from that soldier. I'm going to like take some time and turn him into a skull and put it up there. and sorry, your mom has brain cancer. I cannot cure her. They dope the kid with morphine, walks off with the mom, and while the kid's there, he's already having this, like, absorb the fact that his mom can't be cured. And then 15 minutes later, and that's in movie time, and what we're watching, it's like 3 minutes later.
It felt like 30 seconds, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, I'm being generous. This doctor who he has trusted comes back with his mom's skull and go, here, you can put it up there. It's like, I brought her here for you to cure her, and now you just brought me her skull? What?
And his reaction was kind of the reaction you'd have for, like, if you saw someone like on mushrooms and you handed them a flower. It's like, oh.
Which he, is pretty much true since he doped him with morphine. I get that, but it's just like, dude, this is so good. I can't think of anything more opposite than what I asked you for. It's like, yeah, your mom's gonna die. Not today, though. Maybe I came a long way. Maybe I wanted to have a little bit more time with her, or maybe her with me.
Maybe the thought process was that, because there is one line in there I definitely remember hearing where, like, he's like, well, you haven't said that you're in pain or something like that. And she's like, I'm in pain all the time.
Yeah, no, I get that. And it's pretty obvious that he's going to have to euthanize her. Mm-hmm. But not 5 minutes after I just met you.
Yeah.
It's just one of those, it's that kind of thing where you rush this in the movie. This totally could have happened, but rushing the movie just makes it super odd and awkward. And then compounded the fact that nobody's acknowledging what's going on.
And it could have been more of like a meditative thing if they would have spent more time on this.
Yeah.
But this is the third act of the movie. Like, this is like what it is built up to. And when it comes down to it, like, it was almost like the movie was like, oh, wait, we kind of rushed that because we had 7 other ideas. So what should we do at the end? Like, you guys got any ideas? And then one guy in the back's like, "Aye, mate. All right, crazy one. I got this idea. Hey, my bloke Jimmy, he wrote it. Because that's something that I noticed looking through the trailer. Did you see that? Like, there's Jimmy is written all over the place.
Right.
Like they show it.
Right. And yeah, the whole time you're seeing it, you're like, where did I hear that name? And it's in that very first sequence you showed where that one kid is name checked as Jimmy. But that's such a quick in and out. But throughout the movie, you see Jimmy written on things. You're like, I wonder what's the story with this Jimmy. You don't want to know.
Because they make it very mysterious. Like, you don't know if it's someone who betrayed someone. Like, let me see if I can find it here, because there's a clip that you can see. Yeah, like right here. Hold on. Right there on his chest, it says Jimmy. And then there's even a shot like on the building that says his name. But what this film builds up to is one of the most disappointing sequences I've seen in a movie in such a long time, where it's building. I don't know where it's going, but for them to end on this note of just a tonal shift, maybe some people like that feeling of like the rug really getting pulled out from under them. But when you shift tonally the way that they do, it feels undeserved and random. And that's the worst thing about this movie, is how that faux artsiness comes across as randomness. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who haven't seen the end of the movie, basically they thought that they were being super clever. And they're like, look at the beginning of this movie. The first thing you see is what? The Teletubbies. Aren't we so clever? We're foreshadowing the ending. And what is that ending? This. That's the ending. A bunch of guys, hooligans dressed up like this, a cross between this and this. They come out. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
They come out and
color-coded velour tracksuits.
Yeah, they come out and start kung fu fighting and just whipping out these larger than life video game weapons, like they had like a saw like blade thing they were using to cut a guy's neck off and stuff like that. And they start flipping around, and I shit you not, they just look like Ali G. And they're like, "Hey mate, you want to join our crew? We could do a lot, me and you." And then it fucking ends. That's it. That's what they leave you on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Dusk
it's
till
just
dawn.
and I sat there to see if there was anything after the credits because, like you said during the review, that sequence felt like something that should have been after the credits. I think I would respect it more if it was after the credits.
Yeah, I have a little bit more respect for it. I will say, like where it was ending at that point was still unfulfilling. It was more like, okay, you're just ending it to end it, I guess.
Yeah.
But having that part be part of the movie was just so like, I can't believe this. It makes me feel like I got played, that I ever cared about anything that happened up to that point.
Because we talked about it after the movie. We all just had accepted that this Jimmy guy who pops out with gold teeth, rings on every finger, looking like this.
Platinum blonde hair.
Yeah, he looks crazy. We had just accepted, like, Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, that he was that kid at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, who
Yeah.
cares? But the way that they try to evolve it to, like, actually, he's the character in the next movie. Off. Like, you just needed a cold open, you know? And the cold open was fine. I thought it was very nice.
Yeah.
But, like, the way that they turn it into this it's disappointing. So I would say that the movie is a bit of a mess, but it's not unwatchable. And it's not the worst movie I've seen all year. Is there anything that we missed, guys? Because I think that we pretty much went through. People said clean tracksuits too, though.
Yeah.
I guess. But
Yeah, and I know, the apologists will say, well, you could just like walk away before it gets to that ending.
I hate that shit.
Yeah, I do too, because it's like, oh, you could turn it off before. It's like, well, that makes it sound like a rental if it's something you can turn off. And if you're in the theater and you just paid for a whole movie, how likely are you to walk out before the very end? And how fair is it to even suggest you should do that?
It was disappointing.
Yeah, it was. It was, because I was like everybody. I was hopped up to see this movie. But just little things along the way, and then the second half, a lot of things.
Yeah. Any questions from the chat? That's pretty much all I've got. Any questions about spoiler related 28 years later stuff from anybody? Anything that you want us to talk about that we might have missed? I feel like we pretty much went through it.
I feel like we did.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were watching it frame by frame.
Yeah. Then it would be a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't talk about, those fat zombies being like, this is a shoelace. We didn't talk about stuff like that.
Hey, this ain't a worm.
Yeah.
I did like the soldier, Eric. He added something
Yeah,
new
he
to
did.
it.
But again, that's one of those things. It's like, this isn't enough. This is this is undeveloped. You got too much of this.
I know.
It's
I
like
know.
you go to a
And-
nice restaurant. They're like, have 15 appetizers, and this main course is a tiny steak with iodine on it. It's like, I can't eat all this. I'm gonna get sick.
Yeah, it really was too bad it got hijacked by the zombie baby. It was like,
It did.
this didn't, yeah. So 9 months ago, she was normal and had sex with somebody and then got.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is it a zombie? They got by an alpha who was hanging a huge dong. Like, is that what happened? That's God. See, that's why this is kind of dumb. This movie, kind of. Some people are saying, do you think the two movies will delve into other human colonies like The Walking Dead and Last of Us? I'll tell you. I think that this next movie, wherever they're going with this, I don't know if they're planning like a whole other trilogy, but I think it's going to be a totally different tone.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it seems like they're setting up for like crazy goofball stuff.
And maybe it'll work in the next one. I don't know.
Well, would you look at that? You made it to the end of the video. That means you really like us. So just go ahead and press that like button and subscribe while you're at it. And check out our other channels, our social media like Instagram, TikTok, and our Patreon, where we have new stuff coming up all the time. And we'll see you on the next video.